Welcome back, everybody. My name is Lou. Welcome back to what some people are calling episode 19 of Brits and Yanks Talk Trek, a podcast for Trekkies, Trekkers, and everything in between. We are brought together, a group of friends, both sides of the pond, who just love Star Trek. I say both sides of the pond. I'm slightly outnumbered today. We are basically at a ratio of about 3.5 to 1.5. I'll cover that in a second when we introduce our guests for this evening. During the podcast, we're going to explore a topic from Star Trek. We're going to update you on all the recent Star Trek news, and we're also going to explore something about a cultural difference between Brits and between the Yanks, in line with the title of the show. Obviously, if you like the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching us over on YouTube. Please subscribe to the podcast channel so it shows up in your activity feed as well. If you can do both, that would be absolutely sublime. Thank you. If you want to get involved, join our Discord. Link to that is in the description of both the video and of the podcast itself. You can come and suggest topics that you would like the team to discuss on future episodes. I'd love you to do that. If you want to get a history of all of the different podcasts, all the other content that myself and everybody produces here, go to itsloop.com, and then you can look to become a member. You can get behind-scenes footage of what we do before the podcast even starts. That's a little bit, it's a bit explicit. It's a bit different to the normal stuff that we go through, to say the least. But you can get all the behind-the-scenes recordings and see what actually happens before the show actually starts and goes out to the public. So I am delighted to say that we've got Mr. Perfection, we've got Silvers. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, Luke. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Thank you for asking. Nobody ever seems to ask me how it goes, so thank you for that.
Because no one else cares.
No, absolutely, because nobody cares. I'm pressing the wrong buttons. I'm pressing the wrong buttons. Where's your button? There you are.
There you go.
You are correct. I pressed the wrong button. We've got the king of the graphic himself. We've got Candy. How are you? Had a good day?
Today's been a really good day. Unfortunately, it's the last day of my vacation, but it's only a 2-day work week, so yay.
Can't argue with that, can we? And then we've got the professor himself. We've got Putz. How are you, mate?
I'm doing really great. Can't complain at all.
How good does Putz sound, by the way? Bear in mind how crap he sounds most of the time. He sounds fantastic, thank you. Joking. And then we've got KKC with us today. Now, we've had a bit of a debacle about what we can call it. I like to give everybody a nickname, apart from myself, of course, but I like to give everybody a nickname. And I came up with the Straddler last time, and apparently that was really, really inappropriate. So we've renamed her and come up with something far less offensive, and we've called her Two-Face. Anybody that's not aware, KKC has been on a couple of episodes with us before, and KKC started off as a Yank and converted over to being a Brit, giving us a really, really unique perspective, especially when we come to the freedom and reason section and talk about things like that, and talk about what happens with regards to whatever topic that we're talking about with the cultural differences. That's the team. Let's dive straight in. We're going to quickly update you on the recent happenings since the last episode in the Star Trek news.
It's time for the Star Trek news!
Shatner and Tyson's cosmic bromance. William Shatner and astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson have teamed up for a new show. The Universe is Absurd is the title of it. And it's going to be blending science with Shatner's signature flair. Expect cosmic banter, philosophical musings from the two larger-than-life minds. Now, this, for me, is this something that you would probably... This sounds like something that you might go for, Putz. Is this something that you think you might listen to, or that you might watch? What do you think?
I got to tell you, I am way looking forward to this. I have actually met on 2 different occasions Neil deGrasse Tyson. He spoke while I was an undergrad at my college, and then while I was getting my graduate degrees, he actually came back and spent 3 days in the physics department at the university I was at. So I am looking really, really forward. I love all of the stuff that he does. The Star Talk episodes that he does as his podcast is just absolutely amazing.
Oh, also, I'm glad you are looking for. I'm quite impressed that you've met him. Actually, I don't know many people that have met Neil. I probably know more people that have met Bill Shatner than have met Neil deGrasse Tyson in my real life. So, Candy, what do you think this is? Would this float your boat? Is this something that you think you'd go for?
Oh, definitely. I've always been a huge fan of Neil deGrasse Tyson, and of course, if you don't like William Shatner, you need to get the hell out of here. So
you're definitely not listening to this. You're definitely not listening to this.
Yeah, I mean, like Putz had mentioned, I've watched plenty of his Star Talk episodes over the years. I really enjoyed it when he did Cosmos, when he kind of reintroduced Carl Sagan's original series to a newer generation on Fox many years ago, and I've watched that series. I can't even tell you how many times, and he even had a short time Netflix like lecture series, probably maybe 10 years ago at this point, and it actually made learning about physics like very engaging.
Okay, interesting. I mean, because I'd never heard of it until I started looking up and doing this research. I didn't know this was even going to be a thing. But I too am quite looking forward to it, and it also sounds quite nerdy. So it sounds like something you'd be interested in, Silvers.
Absolutely. I'm a physicist.
I thought you were just with that.
I thought about it. No, I'm a physicist. I took classes in astrophysics. I love what Neil deGrasse Tyson has done. So I would definitely look forward to this and put it on my long list of shows to watch.
Talked about that before, didn't we? How the list of things that you need to watch are just getting longer and longer and longer. And that was in inverted commas for the podcast audience. Just getting longer and longer. KKC, is this on your radar? Something that you think you might go for?
Yeah, I think it would be really fun because they'll have, the good, like an actual scientific background, and then like the more fun growing up, in the acting world of it. So I think it'll be a nice blend.
And I think about this. How much do we really think that Shatner actually knows about space and about physics? Because we all know Neil deGrasse Tyson. Do you know what I mean? We know that astrophysicist, but leave it there. What does Shatner actually know about science, about space, about physics? How much is he going to contribute towards that? Or do we think he's just there as Captain Kirk? I know he'll never say that, and I know he hates the fact that everybody looks at him and calls him Captain Kirk. Do we think he's just there because he is Captain Kirk?
Probably. I was going
to say,
I'm going to guess that he doesn't really know a whole lot, but I also know that he has kind of technically been to space, so...
Yeah, I think he knows more than we think he does.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say...
to the depth and breadth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say that he's going to bring a lot more to the table than you think he will. It may not be technologically correct jargon. It may not be, perfect, but he will be able to talk intelligently. I have no doubt about it. He may bring a lot more philosophical type of thoughts to some of the scientific, juxtaposition from Neil.
Okay. I just think it's a really interesting concept, and I wonder if they sometimes use these stars to appeal to the likes of us, to appeal to Trekkies, people that are obviously going to be interested in Trek, try and get some more ratings out of it. With Star Trek being such a big name in the field, I just wondered if it's just like a ploy to do it, or whether he's actually going to add some value, or if it's all going to be deGrasse Tyson who's going to be adding all the value, and he's just there for Trek eye candy. I know he's not actual eye candy, but Trek candy. Not that sort of candy.
Right.
So no, interesting. I am looking forward to it. Go on, mate.
Silvers was saying that he may know a bit more than he kind of leads on to just from his character persona, but it'd be Neil deGrasse Tyson is used to having his kind of comedic relief with Chuck Nice, and Chuck Nice over the years in Star Talk has kind of like built up his kind of repertoire in regards to his like cohesion of what he understands about astrophysics and different realms of science at this point. So if it ends up becoming a more of a long running type thing, like what he's done with Star Talk, it'd be interesting to see how this evolves over time.
Definitely, and I think that's the thing. I think it's going to be a suck it and see for some people, because I know some people don't even get on with watching Shatner stuff that's not Trek, but I've always found him to be good in everything that he's done. I've always quite enjoyed it. Moving on then, so Strange New Worlds, they're going to risk something. They're going to risk something that I don't think worked very well before. Remember we had the whole Picard and Crusher sort of romance in there. Strange New Worlds, it's been released that they're going to try and dive deeper into Pike's romance with Captain Battelle. some fans are getting a bit wary about this. Obviously, based on the past love stories, like I mentioned, Picard and Crusher, it often just sort of fizzled out, didn't it? It never really stuck. Obviously, we had the flash in the pan of Deanna and Worf as well. So we had a couple of little romances, especially in TNG, that never really stuck with it. So we've got a bit more depth into Deanna and Riker. We've got a bit more depth in that. Obviously, that then perpetuated across into Picard as well. But do we think they're going to stick this landing? Silvers, do we think they're going to be able to stick that? Do we think that's something that they're going to be able to pull off without it being sort of an overtake and turning into some sort of rom-com or some crap like that with Trek?
I think it can work. I mean, we've seen examples of it actually working, like with Worf and Jadzia. So, like, there's examples of both, examples of that kind of setup working and examples of it not necessarily working. I think it would be interesting to see what they're able to do.
Do we think it's different though? Because have we ever had a long-running captain relationship? I think this is the thing that I'm thinking about the most. Because we think about, if we go back, obviously, Kirk had a new relationship every week on every single episode. Picard didn't really work out, did it? Cisco, it was hit and miss, wasn't it? She ended up being able to Romulan infiltrator, and he ended up accusing her of treason against Starfleet. It didn't go super far, did it? It was probably the deepest of the ones that I can recall. Janeway fell in love with a hologram, didn't she? She fell in. She fell in love with some old-fashioned dude on the holodeck. I can't remember his name now. And I think that's about it, really. So we've never really had a captain been able to do it. We've had some side ones, as you mentioned, with Worf and Jadzia. Obviously, we've had Rom and Lita. That was one of the most amusing things ever. One of the most amusing relationships ever with Rom and Lita. But Puts, do you reckon they can pull this off? Do you reckon this is something that they're going to be able to land with a captain with a proper romantic relationship?
Well, first of all, I think, do you want to count Michael Burnham as a captain and her relationship with Booker? That may be a little stretch to call her officially a captain, because she was captain, not captain, all of that. But back to the original premise. Here's the interesting thing. Pike knows when he's going to die. And this is the last season. So
No.
I don't know what they're going to explore exactly, but I mean, it's got a shelf life on it because he knows when he's going to die.
The last
So-
season is season 5, not season 3.
Yeah, so this is season 3 coming up, just to correct that. Obviously,
Okay,
we have
gotcha,
confirmed that we're
gotcha.
going to season 5, but they're going to be shorter seasons, they've confirmed that. But I get what you mean. The fact that he knows, I mean, all of our lives are finite, right? You know, I mean, we've all got an end date at some point, but the fact that he knows when his end date is, that possibly adds another dimension to his want to not be alone for much longer. He wants to get together with somebody, he wants to experience that sort of relationship element before it's too late, whereas some people might just keep leaving it and leaving it and leaving it to the point where it becomes too late. Is that the sort of thing that you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost, you almost have to liken this relationship on the outside looking at it as one member of the relationship has a terminal illness and the other one doesn't, right? Like, what is that how does that dynamic color their interactions when we see them? It will be interesting to see. I'm hoping that they won't make it, rom-commy, as you put it.
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping they don't go down that route, because they do try and mix comedy, and even more recently, obviously with the newer Treks, they try and add some comedy in there. It needs to work, and it needs to work for me. I think it'll be good. KKC, do you think they can pull it off?
I mean, in this day and age, you really hope they have someone that can help them do it. But as Putz said, they have a bit of a kind of framework to go forward with, of like, well, we know when certain things do have to happen for these characters. So I think that should help them be like, okay, well, then we have this time to make the actual romance happen. And whether that ends in a good or a bad way, who's to
I just
say
hope
yet?
it doesn't take over. I hope it doesn't take over. I think you're right. I think you need to make sure that it's not going to be like the be-all and end-all of the series or of the character arcs. Do you know what I mean? I want there to be more development than that. Candy, final thoughts?
I mean, I hope they're able to in leading up to season 3, how they've kind of had like those touch and go moments throughout each season where like Batel's in like the very first episode of the series, and then it's kind of sprinkled throughout, and it's kind of they've given us more of an idea that she's going to be maybe possibly more prevalent throughout this season. I'm not sure. Hopefully, they kind of continue continue the status quo of what they've been doing so far, where they kind of continue to sprinkle her like off and on throughout the season itself. But if it becomes a mainstay, it may end up becoming kind of a more. To me, it may be more of an awkward type thing, like where, like the between Chapel and Spock was hilarious, like their two dynamic during the past season. But I'm not fully sure if Patel and Pike can pull it off this season. I'm not terribly confident on it.
I'm of the same opinion. I'm not 100% sure how they're going to pull it off and whether it's actually going to work. Finally, now I think there's going to be absolutely no surprise to anybody. This isn't going to be a shock. This isn't going to be a realization. This is just fact. Section 31 stumbles in the latest Section 31 streaming film starring Michelle Yeoh unfortunately received the lowest critical and fan reviews of any Trek title to date. It was officially the worst rated piece of Trek to ever hit our screens. It fell below The Final Frontier. And you know what? That's how I feel about it as well. And I'm gutted about it. I'm genuinely gutted that it was just such a disappointment. And so I think one of the big problems with Section 31 was I was looking forward to it for so long. It was in the works. It was on the chalkboard. Do you know what I mean? They'd made the notes that this was happening. A Section 31 series is going to be coming out. It's going to be starring in on Giorgio, and it's going to go into loads of details. We then turn it into a couple of hour film, which sucked. And I think that big part of it was that transition between it being a series into it being a movie. But what do we think puts the worst piece of Trek ever rated? Do you agree, or do you think that's harsh?
No, you nailed it on the head. It was where the essence of the downfall of Section 31 happened. Was it was going to be a series. They transitioned it into a movie. It was rushed, whatever. And they didn't take the time to rework the ending. Literally what we watched was basically a 2-hour pilot. And they ended it like it was a series. And if they would have just taken the last 15 minutes and put it in the bin and done something else to wrap up everything and to make it a singular story, I think it would double its rating.
Or even just put to be continued. And then even if they never came back to it, they didn't need to. Because there's more that could be told with that. There's more that could be told in that story. I believe they could have done more with it. They probably need to cut out more than 15 minutes there at the end. But it was just... Silvers, tell me I'm wrong.
I can't do that as much as I want to. I think Section 31 was too little too late. Like you said, it was supposed to be a series, and it ended up being a movie. And that turned out to be because of scheduling conflicts with the actresses involved. And so I think what would have made this better was, one, to actually have it be a series where it's more short format, but a longer running, so you can have those episodic feels of what this movie turned out to be, which was essentially just a single Section 31 mission, and then they met up again to start all over again. But I think another reason why this fell on the ratings because it aired, or it was released much after the end of Discovery. And so I think if it had premiered right around the second, third season of Discovery, when that transition was happening, then I think it would have received a little bit better ratings, even as a movie in this sense.
Discovery was the biggest deep dive into Section 31. It had the biggest involvement. I know we had some in Deep Space Nine, obviously with Bashir and all that. We had some Section 31 bits in there. We had a bit in Picard. I mean, there was little bits strewn across a few episodes. Discovery was such a key part to making everybody interested in the secrecy and all that sort of stuff of Section 31. I totally agree with you that it needed to be done semi side by side, not when Discovery had finished. I mean, not when Discovery had finished, because I just think it was timed badly. The anticipation of Section 31, that should never be 50 times the hype of what actually finishing watching the movie was. I should never feel so bad about the amount of time I waited for that movie to actually come out. I agree. Anybody else want to jump in on this Section 31 video movie? I don't want to give it much more airtime. Anybody else want to throw anything in on that?
I do. And I feel a bit hateful saying it, but as soon as I saw that Sam Richardson was playing Quasi, I was like, oh, so it's not going to be a good movie. Because as much as I love Sam, I do not think of him as, like, a really good actor. Like, I've seen him in Detroiters, he's in, is it, like, War of the Worlds, with other people. I'm just like, well, you're not, like, tier A. Like, so I'm expecting, a good movie, but not necessarily like, this is going to be the best movie I've ever seen.
Dang.
But I do love Sam. Like, he's a lovely man.
I didn't really like it. The best thing they did was the casting of Philippa Giorgio, and
Michelle is beautiful,
and they didn't even have to do that. That was already done. So no, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to move on. Okay, we're going to move on to our next topic now. That was a quick breakdown of what's been happening since the last episode. We're going to dive into our next segment. We're going to dive into freedom and reason. Freedom and reason. Today we're going to be talking about stereotypes. I think we've covered a couple of these when we've slagged each other off in the past, but we're going to talk about stereotypes. So what do the Brits think of the Yanks? What do the Yanks think of the Brits? I mean, what are the stereotypes of those? Silvers, I'd love you to kick us off with this. Where do you see this segment going?
I see us talking about the weather a whole lot.
Okay, go on.
I just know that Brits have such an affinity for talking about the weather. Oh, it's raining today. Oh, it's raining today. Oh, it's sunny. No, it's raining today. And it's just talked about constantly.
It really is, and we also are never like if you see somebody in the street now. I don't know, like I said, I've not been to America enough, but especially there's a divide as well in the UK. There's a north-south divide of stereotypes as well when it comes to this sort of thing. If you're sort of the Midlands and down, they don't talk either. They don't talk to each other. Like when they pass in the street, I will say hello to anybody. If I go out with my dog, anybody that I see, you all right? Nice day, innit? But you are correct that I will say, are you okay? And I will comment on the weather, whether it's too cold, it's raining, it's too hot, I can't make it work. Do you know what I mean? Whatever the weather is doing, we will generally complain about it. We will complain about it if it's too cold. We'll complain if it's too hot. We are basically, what we are is we love spring and autumn. But then in spring we moan about hay fever. And so basically autumn. Autumn is about the only season where it's moderate temperatures. You just need a light jacket. You don't need a coat. You don't need a hat. You don't need gloves. That's it. That's basically where we're at. But talking about the weather, I cannot agree more. And KKC, tell me if I'm wrong. We're going to jump to you a lot on this one. Do you find that the Brits talk a lot more about the weather than the Yanks do?
Yes. I think it's just much more of a staple in our small talk. Whereas, like, the Yanks will talk about more extremes, like, oh, we've hit over 100 degrees. Oh, this is, like, a record-breaking. Whereas for us, we talk about record-breaking as well. But we'll also just be like, oh, it's been raining far too much. Oh, it actually hasn't been raining enough. Oh, we've hit this week, like, the 80s, which we wouldn't say over here, but for the Yanks, the 80s, which is a heat wave for us, and seems ridiculous for you guys, but with the lack of AC and the extra humidity, it's not fun.
No, and you guys do take air conditioning for granted. You absolutely take air conditioning for granted. I'm getting air conditioning fitted in my house. That's happening in the next few weeks.
I'm very jealous.
I can't tolerate this. I can't tolerate it
thought
anymore.
I thought you were moving to the U.S.
I am, but in the meantime, I need air conditioning. So, no, absolutely. Talking about the weather, I totally agree. I absolutely agree. When I think of a Yank, talking of stereotypes, when I think of people from the USA, if I say to myself, what do I always think of? I always think of being over the top. I always think of you. Do you understand that expression, what I mean by being over the top? I always find that you're...
Obnoxious.
You what, sorry?
Obnoxious.
Not necessarily, because that sounds too negative. I just find that you're very easily excitable. You get excited a lot easier than what we do, it seems like. You seem to be generally a happier tend of people, whereas we seem to take pride in being a little bit miserable. We're all right to be miserable. We're okay for that. But we find that you're always a lot happier, you're a lot louder, you're a lot more boisterous. Do you know what I mean? You're a lot more outgoing and flamboyant with the way that you act in general. That's like a general stereotype that I've got of the Yanks, of pretty much anybody. Whenever you arrive, like my missus is in the forces, so as soon as they found that out, they was all over her. We talked about that when we talked about patriotism in the previous episode, but they were all over her. Do you know what I mean? They were all like high five, yeah, and all that. No, we wouldn't do that here. If somebody tried to high five me in an airport here, I would look at them as if they needed to go to some sort of asylum. Do you know what I mean? That's just not something that would happen here. I would have to glare at them and ask them what on earth that they were doing. I just find
if some random person did that to me, I would do the same thing. So that's not
good.
That's
in
not
general. Yeah, but you are.
That's not an every American thing. But yeah, stereotype. That's why we're talking about it.
But to be fair, I think we can't discount you because we all know that you are a miserable. Do you know what I mean? We just know that happens. That we've known you for long enough now to know that that's just who you are.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Candy, give me a stereotype. What do you think? So when somebody says to you, a Brit, apart from me, obviously, because I'm probably the one that you talk to the most, but when you think of a Brit, what do you think of?
And the accent is first and foremost being able to identify somebody of a British origin straight away.
And I find it also quite amusing how our tiny little island compared to your whopping set of 50 states, I bet we have more accents than you.
I'd say it's probably comparable.
I bet.
Yeah.
But and that's madness because we have different. We can move. If I go 5 miles from my house, our accent is different. If I go 10 miles in a different direction, different accent. So probably within a 25-mile drive, we would have 3 completely different accents. Which is probably not what you would have. You wouldn't have that.
Yeah, that's not going to happen around me.
Definitely not that small.
Yeah.
But I think if you
have to go like
blew
a
it
couple
up,
hundred miles.
Yeah.
And
Then we have a few. And I know maybe it's not full accents, but like the words you use can change a bit. Like, because I know even from like New York proper to Long Island, they're like, oh, there's a bit of a change there, even if it's not a full accent change. Like, the vernacular is different. So I think that's a bit different as well.
Love the word vernacular. It's a fantastic word to use on the podcast. I absolutely love that.
Accents in the U.S. are very regional. I know I have a little bit of a Minnesotan accent. I've been told that many times. The South gets a big rap for having an accent. There's other places that might have accents attributed to them, but the South gets the biggest rap for that.
All I can really tell is whether you're from southern United States or not. Apart from that, you all sound very similar to me. Do you know what I mean? You all sound very similar to me. And I'm terrible at distinguishing. I can't even distinguish accents here. But I can tell somebody from like the proper deep south of the US, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think. And then everywhere else all sort of bleeds into one to me. Like I wouldn't even begin to have a stab at where Putz was from. I won't even begin that. Yeah. I won't even start. I'm going to guess that you're from...
He's talked about it before.
Yeah, I know. But that might be where... But that might not be where his accent's from. He might have moved. But his accent to me sounds westy rather than easty.
Well,
Yeah, I'm spot on.
you're wrong and right at the same time. Like Ohio is considered Midwest,
Oh, not this again.
and right. But here's an interesting factoid, right? Uh, Throughout the history of television, um, most all broadcasters for local news stations, if they have if you have a pretty thick accent, they actually send you to somewhere in Ohio to get rid of your accent. Tom Brokaw, a lot of different other uh, very famous national news people started somewhere in Ohio to get rid of their accent.
Wow, that's interesting. Because out of the 3.5 of you, because you're starting to pick up a bit of a British twang now, KKC, which I think you should be, given the time that you've been here. I can tell that you've been in both. I wouldn't be able to tell now where you started. Would you
That's
agree?
fair. That's something my mom got that a whole lot. She got everywhere except the UK after living in the States for like 14 years. She'd be South African. She'd be like French. She'd be Irish. She'd be Scottish. She'd be anything but English. And it's like, and every time she's like, I am English. Thank you.
I must have had 10 Americans think I was Australian. And bearing in
Oh,
mind
yeah,
my
yeah.
accent from my very small area of Hull, my accent is one of the worst ones. The way I'm talking to you now, so that it's even legible, is completely different. I don't mean legible, that's readable. What word am I thinking of? So it's actually understandable. That's a bit of a struggle, isn't it? That I can't actually think of the word to make it understandable.
Comprehensible.
We'll go for that. We'll go for comprehensible. But the way I'm talking to you now is
Give him a
totally
ding.
different. It's totally different to how I would talk to somebody else from Hull, from where I am. How I would talk to my partner. Do you know what I mean? It's totally different. She hears me do these podcasts, and she hears me like when she's sat in the other room, or if I'm streaming or something like that. And when I come off it, she said, "Oh my God, you sounded stupid." But to you,
That's not an accent thing.
funny. But the thing that I get with it all is that we do have stereotypes about accents. Obviously, we assume, because everybody assumes that everybody from England, if somebody was told to do an English accent, they would do Parliament Westminstery type London accents, and they go da-da-da-da-da-da-da, wouldn't they, when they were doing it? You know what I mean? They would try and make it really, really precise, which is such a small portion of the British accents. Do you know what I mean? But the stereotype is London based.
It is like very posh. And I think now we're moving in. It's either posh or chav, and there's like no in between.
No, yeah,
It's like the two accents people know.
Absolutely. Go on, KKC. I just think you're going to be able to have such a unique take on this. Things that you thought about. What? Just really quickly, just to remind people, just tell people how you've moved between the continents. Just to give
Right,
people
okay.
that background again for people that don't know.
Of course. So my dad's American. My mom is English. They met when my dad moved to the UK for work the first time. He brought her home with him. They then lived in the States for about 14 years, had me and my two sisters, and then he got moved for work again back here to the UK. So I've been here about 20 years now. But I have gone back to the States quite a lot. I did a bit of my university in Chicago. So I like to say I topped my accent back up a bit, even though I'm from New York. I'm of the three of us, I probably have the most American accent still. Take that as you will. But like, I think some of the big thing is like tea versus coffee, is at least in my household, and then my households. That's a huge, like, I drink so much tea when I'm over here, and then I would not touch it unless it's iced tea in the States. Because they tend not to use a kettle. It's like microwaved hot water. That does not make a good cup of tea. No, it needs to be boiling hot water. Coffee, fine. Coffee, like 90 degrees is all right. That'll be
I
fine.
can tell you've been indoctrinated.
I know, right? But yeah, so like coffee's a big thing. I'd say like desserts are
rude.
really different, and I know that's a bit historical. You know, there's more history here of like what would be classes like a fancy dessert to a normal dessert to like even regional desserts will be different. But like, and then I know we covered it in a podcast before, but like breakfasts are completely different. You know, like, a fry up is probably the most American type breakfast you could get. but then you definitely don't have a fry up every day. And then in the States, you could have
And
like donuts
they
for
don't do
breakfast.
fry-ups as good. They don't do fry-ups
No, we
as well as
don't.
we do either. We do
No, that's
fry-ups.
right. It would be very different, yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
And just
those
it
are
would be
those are
different.
fighting words.
Those are fighting words. They are.
Your
I say
bacon
because they're just
is
not
crap.
comparable.
No, your bacon is crap compared to ours. It's this.
That I do love back bacon.
horrible-
Yeah, streaky. It's not my favorite.
It's pants. The bacon
It
we
is.
have. If I can bring some when I come to the States, I'll bring some. But I don't think they'll allow me to transport bacon. They might not allow me to do that. Plus, if I
Possibly
can buy
not. You
some
might have
real
to hide
bacon-
it.
Yeah, absolutely. We can just hide it somewhere. I agree. So, I just think you've got such a unique stance on this. Is there anything that you can think of when you was moving between the countries, probably for the first time, that you was expecting from one side that wasn't the case? So you was expecting X and it ended up being Y. You know what I mean? Is there anything you can think of that sort of fits that category? Pre-misconceptions that were totally blown out the water that could be construed as that.
Well, I think when we first, maybe not even moved, but like before we moved and we'd come to visit my nan, the shops would be closed, like early. They'd close on a Sunday. And that was just something that like, we hadn't had in the States really. Like they were open almost 24/7 already. And so that was a big thing of like, no, you have to go to the shops or we won't have anything. And that was a weird thing to get over. And then that's changed now, for the most part at least. So that was one where it's like, that feels so outdated and archaic, but it's just how life is.
It is. You just get used to it. Don't you?
You do get used to it,
You
definitely.
just adapt to it. 4 o'clock on a Sunday. After that, you can't buy it. You can buy next to nothing unless you want to go to a shop
Exactly.
that costs twice the price.
And that was something my dad really complained about when he'd first moved, because you're at work. When are you meant to do anything? Because you're at work during all the usual opening hours. So he's like, I could never get anything. And he didn't have someone to help like go do it while he was at work.
No.
Until he met my mom. No, she was also at work.
What about anything the other way? Obviously,
The-
stateside that you didn't that you maybe missed or something like that when you went back. Is there anything other than tea?
I mean, when we first moved, we were like, I feel like the statute of limitations passed. We were bringing so much food back across, and like sometimes you'd ship it. Like we had Kraft mac and cheese one time we shipped, and they took it off us for cheese as a dairy product, and we're like, "There's no actual cheese in this box, please." It might say cheese. It's not cheese. Come on, you didn't need to take that. My dad, our taxi driver, joked like, "Do you need a refrigerated van?" And my dad was, "Oh, that would be great," because he was bringing back like all like the cold cuts we don't have here, meats and like cheeses and just so many things he definitely shouldn't have been bringing. Because the guy was like, "Have you seen those signs?" And my dad was like, "What signs?" And then of course he actually looked up in the terminal, and it's all about like, "Please do not bring dairy back. Please do not bring any kind of meat back. Please don't do this. Please don't do it. Like this is illegal. Go through the red customs." It's like, oh, yeah, no, thank God I've not been caught. So there's foods that are different. Like I know in the States, the stereotype, we have a lot of junk food, and we do definitely compared to here, and it's different. Even now we have like food here that's like not for EU sale, thanks to Brexit and stuff. And you're just like, I don't really know what the difference is going to be here, but all right. But there's definitely different additives you're not allowed to use, so things definitely taste different, and there are things that you're just like, oh, I want a Mars bar. Well, a Mars bar here is a Milky Way in the States. And you just don't think about things like that. I know, they're just called something else. The Three Musketeers,
Milky Way was
first...
they're one of the best chocolate bars ever.
I know. And like I said, it is the exact same thing. The Mars bar Milky Way to the States and here, absolutely the same thing. Because I think they're both owned by Cadbury. Or, no, I think that's the problem. One is owned by Cadbury and one is owned by like Mars. That was like the son of the actual chocolate guy anyway. So they are the same, but they're like a branch of the family. And Three Musketeers is, that has a different name too, but they're still both the nougat bars. Oh, is it Milky Way here? That's the difference. It's Three Musketeers there and Milky Way here.
Food it's so surprising that you brought up food, and I'm surprised it didn't come up a little bit earlier. But obviously, food for me, when the stereotype of obviously being in America is that there's loads of people that eat a hell of a lot, and portion sizes are massive. Do you know what I mean?
So
That's
huge,
one of
far
the things
too
that I always
big.
think about. So the fact that like over there, we could get a large drink that was this big, that was a small over there, and that's probably made relevant by that McDonald's documentary. Did anybody ever watch it? Was it Super Size
Yeah,
Me
Super
or something
Size
like that?
Me. Yeah,
that
yeah.
poor guy that had to eat McDonald's every day for like 30 days. He's dead now, I think. I think he did, which doesn't surprise
He
me.
might have. I don't even think he got through it, did he? He had to stop.
No, I think he had to stop before he was about to
Yeah.
crash, wasn't he? But
Because it's ridiculous, the difference.
just because they're on offer, Candy, have you ever ordered those drinks that are 3 times the size of your head? Would you ever even order that, even though they're available?
If this was 10, like if this was like 15 years ago, probably. But now, no. I mean, between like cup holders, not even being able to hold a lot of those drinks if you're having to drive around.
Yeah.
I mean, this is this is too big for a cup holder, and this ends up living on the seat. So a drink from a drive-through is not gonna live anywhere else but on me.
Yeah, absolutely. So big. Right, Candy, anything else that you want to add to the stereotypes? Anything that you want to slag us off for?
Not specifically. I mean, like, yeah.
I'm not happy if you have it.
There are some, but that's just kind of getting kind of like borderline mean at that point.
Please, then, please.
Silvus, I'll give you a chance. Go on. Anything else that you want to add?
I've got 2 that I wanted to throw out there. We've talked about food, how the Americans have a lot of junk food, a lot of large portion size food, but our food is so good. We actually use salts and spices, and the food over there, man, you need a lesson in culinary skills because you cannot cook anything to save your life.
But they can fry a fish, and they can make good French fries, and that's about it.
Exactly. And what I've always liked, like the thing I've heard is we've conquered half the world, tried all the spices, and decided we didn't like them, so we don't use them. 3 meat and 3 veg. That's all we need.
Yep. And the other one that I wanted to poke about was queuing.
And we love a
queue.
queue.
We do. The thing is, nobody likes to queue. I hate queuing. I hate it, but I'm really good at it.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Don't think it. The stereotype is that we love queuing. We don't. We hate queuing.
Or
We're just very good at it.
So we are no. We are just a very, very polite nation. I mean, when we just sort of give up our conquering and we decided to give you all your countries back, do you know what I mean, after we owned a quarter of the globe, we decided that we would just be a little bit nicer. So we're just quite polite. We will stand in line. We will wait our turn, and then everybody gets through eventually. Do you know what I mean? We're quite happy to do that. But the conception of that we like queuing is wrong. It's just that we are good at it.
You guys are as good as queuing as people are in the United States in the South. When you go to the South, the politeness and not rushing a line, standing your place, it's still there. It's still there.
Good. So it should be. It's just so much easier. Why have the argument? Why be pushing in and doing it? Not worth doing. Not worth doing. I think we've done that to death. That's good. I think we could probably do about 3 episodes on that, just literally. But it does just become a little bit of a slagging match, doesn't it? And I don't ever want it to become that. I want it just to become light-hearted and different things. So no, that's absolutely cool. We're going to go on to our Star Trek topic now, okay? And I'm quite looking forward to this one. So we're going to do a series. We're going to do a series where we're going to go through all of the pilot episodes for each different series of Trek, or all of the first episodes. Now, what I would like somebody to take the mantle with first is we're going to start right back at the beginning. At the beginning? The beginning. We're going to start right back at the beginning. And we're going to go for the original series. We have all on this call, we have rewatched the original series pilot, and the specific pilot that we have watched is called, Candy?
The Man Trap.
The Man Trap, yeah? That's what we've watched, okay? And we've all re-watched that. However, Puts, that's not the original pilot, is it?
No, it is not. In fact, for those that don't know that are listening, they recorded a pilot that did not have Shatner as the captain, did not have DeForest Kelley as the doctor, and a few others were not there. And then they reshot a pilot that is actually one, I think it's episode 2 or 3 of that they aired. So what we are watching is the 3rd or 4th different episode that they actually recorded in a chronological time.
Wow, Silvers, anything to add to that, to the origins of this pilot, to give us some facts?
I don't have anything specific about that.
Okay. So we know that it wasn't the first one. The first original one, I think, was actually called The Cage, that was released a couple of years earlier. That was released on TV. I think it was The Cage that came out first, and that one had Pike in there as captain. It still had Spock, though, didn't it? But Spock looked a little bit different. It looked a little bit more evilly in that first first iteration. And then obviously then we got the one that we all know now, which was the Man Trap. So, Man Trap. Brief breakdown. Silvers, I know you've got copious notes on this. I know you'll be able to break this down. But just to refresh everybody's memory, I'll give you a couple of quick key hints, and then we'll talk about some things that we liked, that we disliked about the pilot. But I just want to give you the general gist of this. So the general gist of this episode is that we went down to a planet. We went down to a planet where we was going to basically go and do some standard surveys that we have to do from a medical perspective to be able to certify that the scientists that were on that planet were fit to carry on. Kirk announced it as like their annual medical, basically, that they had to do to stay on the planet as part of the Federation, etc., etc. However, something went a little bit Pete Tong, didn't it, Silvers? Tell us about the next bit.
Indeed. So, as the crew gets down to the planet, they start to lose crew members. Crew members are dying left and right because this alien who is the wife in the story is killing them. We find this out later that she needs salt to survive, and so she's taking all the salt from their bodies and leaving them dead with these red bulges on their face.
And it wasn't just as easy as trying to find an alien, was it, Candy? It wasn't just like trying to find the person that looked odd.
Nope. It was the wife of the doctor ended up being a shapeshifter who could take anybody's form, but also was able to utilize like the sleight of eye, where they say the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. When they meet the doctor's wife for the first time, who is McCoy's old love interest, he sees her as he saw her 12 years ago. And when Shatner looks at her, she's like this gray, definitely older woman. And then when Crewman Miller sees her, she's like this
Smoking
young,
blonde.
yeah, smoking hot blonde from a vacation that he just got done with. Like the best. I had a good laugh at that part when Shatner's like, "Bro,
Yeah,
young no
he did
more."
do that. He absolutely did do that. It was just so funny because McCoy sat there still like sort of like gawping at her, and he said, "Oh my God, you haven't aged a day in 12 years." And Kirk's just thinking, okay. And he said, "She hasn't even got a grey hair on her head." And Kirk went, "She's got some greys." She has got some greys.
He was like, I can't let that slide. I can give you maybe she hasn't aged a day in your eyes, but no, she got gray hair. Don't lie to me.
Yeah. But tell us about the next bit. Then what happens?
Well, unbeknownst to the crew of the Enterprise, one of the people that the alien killed, they take the form of him, and they are transported back to the Enterprise, and then more things happen. There's an interaction with Uhura, that and you kind of get the sense that this shapeshifter can kind of play off and read people's minds and kind of mimic or show outwardly to them what they want to see or maybe what they were thinking about. And yeah, it's eventually though, they do figure out when they send another crew back down to the planet to find the doctor. They find Crewman Miller, his body. Oh, wait a minute, we beamed him back. Well, now we have an intruder on the Enterprise.
and how does it finish, KK? So you finish off the actual plot of the story, tell us what happened, and then we'll go into points that we found interesting. Tell us how it finished.
All right, so now that they know that the creature's on the ship, they call like a meeting of all the bridge staff crew. Well, of course, the creature's already in because McCoy is now tried to go to sleep, and she's McCoy, and they're trying to figure out like, oh, who could it be? And she manages to get the Doctor and Spock alone, kills her husband, tries to kill Spock, doesn't do it because he's a Vulcan, lucky him, runs back to McCoy because she's like, oh, my old love will protect me, surely. And for a time, he does. He doesn't want to kill her because in his eyes, it's Nancy, it's his love. Like, how could he do such a thing? But luckily, after attacking Kirk and then Spock and then Kirk again, McCoy snaps out of the trance she has him in and does manage to shoot her twice with a phaser. And then it's over. They're definitely traumatized a little bit, but, you know, they're strong men. They're dealing with it.
When he sort of broke that spell in his mind, it actually turned into its standard form.
True form.
This
That's
big,
yes, it did.
hideous orange-green thing with big sucky hands.
Yeah, which
Big
explains
sucky,
all the
big
little marks in the
sucky paws.
faces.
Yeah, which explains it completely. I mean, it made so much sense, did it, when you actually saw
did.
the alien in itself.
Exactly.
But that was the gist of it. It was a salt-crazed, crazy lady that could look as hot as you wanted it to. That was the general gist. It seduced the crew. It made it on there in the lust of trying to get more salt, which is what it wanted to feed itself. That was its food source. And it was killing people by sucking all of the salt out of them. I thought it was a decent episode. I mean, they're not... The TOS isn't my favourite anymore, okay? And it's not, and I'm being honest here. TOS isn't my favourite purely because I find I struggle with the graphics. I struggle with the lack of CGI now because we're spoiled, aren't we, by later Trek? I mean, I think we're spoiled by that. But in terms of a storyline, pretty standard storyline for a Trek episode. Doing away team, something crazy goes on, ends up coming back to the ship. They deal with it. Pretty standard in it. Has anybody got any talking points? Because I've got a couple.
I have many.
And I have
I have a huge list.
You've got a
Alright,
list. So let's do people without a list, and then you can finish off with your list. KC, you go first.
I have like, I'll say 2 points. So the big one that I noticed is someone that hadn't really seen to us in its original was the red shirt doesn't die first. It's a fellow yellow shirt. A fellow doctor dies.
That was one of my
your points. Yeah, it's
And
before it was always red shirts die. I noticed that.
Yeah,
I thought, oh, I know that's a different thing.
There were 4
And then my
crewmen
second thing-
that died, plus the doctors that was living on the planet.
Yeah,
None of them were red
a
shirts.
whole bunch of people. Yeah, so that's a big change, or something they then correct moving forward. And then I think the next thing I was like, she wants salt. She saw salt on the plate for Sulu. Why not just go to the cafeteria? Why is she following all these people around? There was definitely salt stored in a much easier place. It's like, come on, girl, you're better than this, please.
Episode slightly, wouldn't it? If she just
It fully would have if she was
in the
gorging
pantry.
herself in the cafeteria or something.
Yeah.
But I was like, I know she maybe hasn't been on a spaceship, but come on, you're better than this. Surely you can sense it.
Yeah, I like it. Right, I'll give you one of mine. I'll give you one. This is something that I don't think that you would get away with now. And I'm going to toe close to the line here with all respect. I don't think you would get away with Uhura's love interest also being a black man. I don't think you would get away with that anymore. The fact that it automatically assumed that could happen. That wouldn't happen in today's society. It fit, it worked, it was fine. I just don't think that would be acceptable now. I don't think they would do that.
I did think that in the moment. I was like, oh, like, of course he's black. But I also know, and we might cover it, or we might have already covered, like, the first interracial kiss happens during this.
It does. And
So,
I
like,
don't think
they
Star
are
Trek's
progressive.
racist. Yeah.
But,
I'm
yeah,
not
I
going to say that Star Trek's racist or anything like that.
I would say
don't
it's very
think it's a racist.
stereotypical.
I just think it's applying a bit of a stereotype, and I thought that was
Definitely.
a little bit strange. I also wanted to comment on the shortness of the skirts, which seemed to get shorter as the episode got further in. The skirts sort of seemed to start at knee length, and by the end of it, they were just covering knickers. So I've covered the two sort of controversial topics there. I've covered the sexual and the racist element, so I can leave all the nice things to you. But has anybody got anything that they want to add on my short skirts or the Uhura incident?
I actually have a different take on Uhura. Did anybody think that, like, her voice was not, Nichelle Nichols' like normal voice? Like, it just sounded so high pitched and so breathless and so, oh, Captain, and da da da. Like, I was very, it was, I was very put off by that. But then I also had to go, okay, this came out in the mid 60s. Like, put yourself in America in the mid 60s and then imagine yourself watching this episode for the very first time on TV. Maybe you have a color TV, maybe you don't. But I remember what my dad said he remembered from the very first episode that he saw, which was this episode. And that was like, he was like, I don't remember anything about the episode except, oh my gosh, it's in color, it's in space. Look at the ship move. Look at all it. Like, my dad was bewildered by the technologicalness of the broadcast, where we look at it and go, yeah, that's really campy, and that's that, you know. So I don't know. It was a hard watch. Like, there's a lot of, you know, just the phrasing of, well, you know, men can stay alone by themselves, they're good at it, but women, you know, you know how women are, they have to have company. And it's just, you know, you can, out of any Star Trek TOS episode, you can find multiple, you know, egregiousness that wouldn't fly today.
No, it wouldn't fly today, and the majority of people would never don't even think that anymore. So, I mean, back then that was clearly an acceptable thing to say. Now it's just not the case, is it? It just goes to show again where the world has developed in all this time. You know what I mean? Because it was a hell of a long time ago. 1968, was it, the pilot?
66. September 8th, 1966.
Right. I mean,
Star Trek.
Anything else you want to add, Candy?
I thought it mean like it being its like kind of its launch like pilot episode. I mean, kind of like what Putz was referring to, maybe just kind of giving the audience a little bit of everything at the time, to just so it wasn't as the studio kind of gave Roddenberry grief about it at first, where it was too big brained, and kind of wanted to bring as much of the audience as they could in with the like first real pilot episode, and so kind of reach out to as many different demographics as they possibly could with it. But I actually thought the episode was kind of hilarious in certain sections. Like, I had an honest, really good laugh when Kirk was on the bridge talking to, I think it was when he was talking to McCoy and Spock when they were down in sickbay from the bridge, and Kirk is sitting there eating dinner on camera, and then as he's getting up to go down to sickbay, he's like, "Here, waitress, take this," hands it to another crewman, and she walks. I was like, bro, like you have waitresses on the Enterprise, or is this just a thing?
Jelly babies. They just look like jelly babies or something, didn't they? They look like little sweets, didn't they? You just sat there. Yeah. I can't think of another time on any Star Trek episode where anybody eats on the bridge.
Yeah.
But they didn't go to sickbay, by the way. Did anybody catch what they were calling sickbay in that episode?
Dispensary?
The dispensary, yes.
I know. It's absolute madness. All these little quirky things that we'll pick it up again by watching it through. Silvers, I've got one more, and then you can start your list. They did something that I don't recall them doing in any other episode of Star Trek. You know, when we found out that she was changing her appearance to fit the person that was looking at her, about 2 minutes after that, we sort of figured out that was going on in our mind. But then he came across in a captain's supplementary log and actually annotated that that's what was going on. He actually explains that in like a monologue over the scene. I don't think that's something that they've ever done before, explaining what's actually going on in terms of the mystery of the whole episode. I don't recall that ever happening any other time. Did anybody else pick up on that?
Yeah, kind of like a retrospective captain's log before the mission actually kind of fully got underway.
Yeah.
Well, did you watch it with the cuts where the intended commercials were, or did you just watch it straight through? Because that could have been a comeback from a commercial during its during its original broadcast. A lot of the episodes in other series would come back and do something like that as the lead in from a commercial.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Right, Silvers, give us your list.
All right, so
Did we do quite well ticking stuff off your list?
You've only ticked off 2 things.
Christ. Go on then.
So one of the other kind of TOS stereotypes that I noticed was that Bones went down to the planet and he was using the transporter, and he didn't complain about using that. One of the things that we know from TOS is that he didn't like using the transporter. He thought it was wicked technology, not safe, whatever. He didn't have any adverse reactions to using the transporter in this episode.
Great shout.
That's a good point. Maybe we can blame Nancy, his own flame, for that, but...
Yeah, he wanted to get back to Nancy a little bit quick.
Exactly.
Yeah, he wanted to get
it's a
back
good
to
point, though. Not mentioned at all. Not even with
licking flame. Sorry, Kate.
Yeah. Yeah, not even a hint of like, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. Just like, ooh. Again, things change as they keep going.
Yeah.
People develop.
As far as the actual episode goes, like as far as like graphics and stuff, the detail on the Enterprise was amazing. They had the turbo lifts numbered. I don't know if you noticed that, but like there's like 3 and 4 for the turbo lifts.
Do you know what all the signs look like? I need to jump in one more time. Do you know what all the signs look like? Has anybody ever seen? It's like a gun, right? And it's got like a tape in it, and you go through and you twist the top of it to get to the right letter, and then you pull the trigger, and it stamps the letter into a piece of like plastic that you then rip the back off, and it's a sticker. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's called a label maker from like the 80s or 90s. Yes.
That sort of thing. That's what it looks like they've used. But yeah, go on, Silvers. I agree. The attention to detail on some of these things was fantastic.
Yeah, I just loved it. I love that Enterprise. That's my favorite version of the Enterprise, just from an aesthetic standpoint, and kind of going back to SDFC, which I don't play anymore. That was my favorite ship, is using the G3 Enterprise with that skin on it in the game. But from another graphic standpoint, the phaser fire is terrible. It's so bad.
Especially when he shoots the Doctor, and the Doctor's like, get it. And then kind of like, you can totally tell like this
alien, and the alien can just sort of capitulates really, really slowly into the car.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
And again, I will quote my father. He said, "Man, that was the very first time I've ever seen anything like space oriented that looked so real." Talking about the phaser fire.
Yeah, and in today's eyes, it's just like, oh my god, that's so bad. That's
How times have changed.
It's terrible.
Is this stop animation?
Yeah. We are so spoiled now, don't it? This is just proving how spoiled we are now, don't it? Not just with Trek, but just with TV in general. We're so spoiled now with what we've got.
We are. So I think they look pretty good, except for maybe like the background. I was like, you can really tell they're in a set, but they are. Fair enough.
Yeah. But again, I think going back to what one of the guys was saying, trying to explore everything. They had some stuff on the ship. They showed a few different rooms in the ship. They showed quarters. They showed
They're doing a really good
dispensary. Job. They showed a planet. They showed multiple scenes within that planet. They had the inside. They had the outside. The little home of the Doctors. Do you know what I mean? They had loads of different elements going on. They were really
very impressive.
On that. Really, really going ham. Go on, Silas.
I have 2 more, and these are about things that I noticed in the episode, which I don't believe are a thing in any other Star Trek series. The first one that I'm going to mention is General Quarters 3 and 4. So when they first noticed that the alien had gotten aboard the ship by acting like one of the crewmen and getting transported up, they said General Quarters 3, which was a security measure, which means everybody that's non-essential goes to their quarters. And then when they found out that she was still killing people, they raised it to General Quarters 4. I don't think that's something that we have seen in any other Star Trek series as far as that language. We've seen Yellow and Red Alert. That's what we're very familiar with, but we aren't familiar with the General Quarters vocabulary.
I don't recall it ever. What about the Enterprise?
I think that they use General Quarters in in Enterprise.
Because there's an episode
pretty
of Enterprise where he actually is trying to come up with a good name for Red Alert.
Yeah.
Just through like combat readiness or stuff like that. He goes through some really crap names, doesn't he? Before he ends up coming up, it's Malcolm in it. Before he ends up coming up with Red Alert.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure before that, before that episode and an episode before that in that series, they used General Quarters. Now, did they use General Quarters 3 and 4? I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure that they used General Quarters. Now I'm going to have to go look that.
Can anybody remember if they actually started to use red and yellow alert in TOS? I cannot recall. I genuinely cannot recall. Or was the first time we saw it in TNG? There you go. Question.
I'm not sure.
Answers on the postcard. Drop it in the comments of the video, or leave it as a leave it as a comment on the podcast if you want. If you know the answer to that. Final point, Silvers.
The other thing that isn't in any other Star Trek series that I'm aware of is truth serum. There was a point in the episode where I think it was Kirk asked Spock or something like that if they could use truth serum to kind of try and figure out who the alien was. And I think it was Bones responded with, "Yeah, we can do that," or something like that. And Spock got up to go with him to prepare that. And all this while, this is Bones as the alien, not the actual Bones.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that this is something that we've seen in any other Star Trek series.
No, don't recall that. Also, think about this as well. You think about it from a Prime Directive standpoint, right? You think about the fact that he found out that it was the final person, the final being of that species. He didn't even bat an eyelid about killing it. Didn't even bat an eyelid about making this species extinct, did he? Didn't even bat an eyelid.
No General Order 1 on this one.
No General Order 1. Nope. I agree.
We know the phaser can be set to stun.
We do. They do that.
Yeah, they used it on the other day. They used the Doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that was a deep dive. That was the Man Trap, the official pilot of the original series. We will do this series again for all of the other series as we work through them. We're not going to do them back to back, so obviously we'll dive in and we might do TNG next in a few episodes time. So keep coming back so we can keep doing these. That would be fantastic.
I've got a list. I've got it all planned out.
We're already sorted. Don't need to worry about anything to do with that. So I will say a massive thank you to everybody. Remember, guys, we are available on all major podcast platforms. So please leave us a 6 out of 5 star review on there. If you haven't already, and even if you do own a listening podcast, please, it does us a massive favour if you could pop across over to the Brits and Yanks Talk Trek YouTube channel and subscribe over there. That would be massively appreciated. Join our Discord and suggest topics, answer questions that we got wrong, anything that you think that we could have elaborated on better, anything like that. Leave us suggestions for future episodes. That will be amazing. Are you interested in playing Star Trek games? If you are, check out Star Trek Fleet Command. You can find all of our content, myself and Candy, and Minnie, obviously, who's not here at the moment. You can check out all of our content. You can find all those links in the description of the podcast. So please go and do that and come and check out a Star Trek game if that's something that you'd like to do. All feedback is welcome. We want your questions. We want your topics. Check out the website. You'll be able to pick up some merch. Some exclusive Brits and Yanks Talk Trek merch is available at itsloop.com, curated by the one and only Candy White that you can see on your screen there. It's absolutely brilliant. And if you want to support the show, to obviously support us to get better technology, better graphics and things like that for the show, then we do have a membership where you get exclusive behind the scenes clips, and it starts at just $3 a month. So the cost of a latte a month, you can support the channel and obviously become a member of the podcast as well. That will be amazing. So thank you so much to everybody who is our current member. I'm going to say a massive thank you to everybody that's here. Thank you, Silvers. Thank you, Candy. Thank you, Puts. Thank you so much, KKC, for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure to record this second episode of Series 2. It's been brilliant. Thank you ever so much. And just like that, we're out. Thank you very much, guys. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day. Oh, and remember, absolutely everything is better with Loop. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Check it out. Check it out. Sulu's a botanist. Did you know that?
Oh, he did have a crazy plant.
He did.
Bye all.